Hi, this is Melanie for the Pardesi channel. I'm doing a marathon of movies today because I was gone last weekend and there's so many new movies that came out over this past weekend that I've been anxious to see. The first one that I saw has been out in Kerala for a couple of weeks, but it finally made it to the United States and Chicago this weekend, and that is Koode. Which means with or together. This film has been highly anticipated by not just me, but by everyone, because it is the second feature-length directorial of Anjali Menon, who gave us Bangalore Days. She also wrote the script for Ustad Hotel, and I realized two of the very first Malayalam films that I ever saw that made me fall in love with Malayalam regional films were her films. Had something to do with her. It was also because they both had Dulquer Salmon in them. That's why I watched them. But I came to love Anjali Menon's way of showing us relationships and families. And this film is something truly special. Not only is she repairing Prithviraj and Parvathy together again, which is something which is also highly anticipated since their blockbuster in Ananta Modine, but she brings back to us Nazriya Fahadh, who had not done a film since she got married to Fazal Fahadh. And of course she had great success in Bangalore Days. It just, so many things about it that I was excited about, and it totally lived up to my expectations. I just have to tell you, this film was so emotional for me. If my makeup looks all messed up, there's a reason, and that's because I'm not sure I've ever spent so much time in a film crying. And that's not a negative criticism. That's just that Anjali Menon can play me like a violin. She can evoke emotion. She can create such sympathy for the audience to her characters that she's showing us. And it's also due to the brilliance of Prithviraj, because it's really his story. He is Joshua, and we get his story told in both present day and flashbacks to his childhood. And I loved that this script finally gave Prithviraj, I've always known that he's an exceptional actor, but this script gave him a chance to show the brilliance, to show the subtlety that I have seen glimpses of, but it was like an entire film of just brilliance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the film before we get into spoilers. I will say I myself went into the film not knowing what part Nazriya was playing. And so I think if you can, just go into it semi-blind. You know these three actors. It's Anjali Menon. That's all you need to know. But know that bring a box of Kleenex with you, because it is an emotional journey. And while there are moments of lightness to counterbalance the melancholy, there is a lot of melancholy in this film. And just I love the way Anjali Menon can show us in just very subtle ways, just by a flinch to a comforting touch, a touch that lingers too long, a buttoning up of a shirt to hide a scar. All these just small little moments that convey an entire backstory of pain, and almost your imagination is probably worse than if she actually showed us more than those small moments. And that's the kind of thing that just showed the mastery. This is a film about families. This is about broken people finding healing, finding each other, and healing themselves. I will tell you this much, that the opening of the film, we see Prithviraj, and I guessed immediately that he was working in the Gulf, because He is literally in the bottom of a well, and he is scraping muck, and he's covered with muck, and he has this, like chemical breathing mask on, and he's called out of work to get some bad news, and the opening credit sequence shows him traveling through this dry desert, and you just see the deadness in his eyes. He had that before he took the phone call. It wasn't just from the phone call. You can just tell. Again, it's both the brilliance of Anjali Menon and the brilliance of Prithviraj's acting, that he conveys so much in the sadness and the melancholy of his eyes. We could just tell, I could just see years of loneliness in his face. And then when he arrives back in Kerala and he's on a bus and it starts to rain, and just almost the small coming alive a little bit of him putting out his hand of the window in the rain, coating his hand. Just exquisite small moments like that just conveyed so much about the people that this film is about. I thought, without giving any spoilers, I thought that Nazriya's part was a little bit of a manic pixie dream girl, and her brightness and humor was a welcome counterpoint to all the melancholy, but sometimes it might have been a little bit too much. And then Parvathy has not as many lines in the script, but she still, because she's such a good actress, she conveys just this inner strength and inner struggle without very many words, and I really appreciated that. And I thought she was very good in the scenes with Prithviraj, but also just, again, it felt like a glance gave so much. There was a funny line that Nazriya said. She was kind of joking with Prithviraj for not speaking very much or being very silent, and she says, if I also didn't speak, then this would be like one of those art films. So that was kind of a funny line. The cinematography was gorgeous, and the background score I thought was so evocative. That just added to the emotion, and what made me cry, just those guitar strings that started strumming, and I was a goner. But there were some really nice songs in the soundtrack. I haven't really listened to them separate from watching them in the film. I know people have been talking about the soundtrack. I don't know if the songs will be as powerful separated from Anjali Menon's visuals, but within the film, they worked extremely well. There was a new actor to me playing a young man at Nazriya plays a character named Jenny. There's a flashback to college days. Roshan Matthew plays this young musician, and I thought he was a new face to me, and I thought he was quite good in this small supporting role. There's a couple of other notable actors. The director and actor Ranjit plays Prithviraj's father, and he was very good. And there's just one scene of them with a toy train set that you just felt like between the two of them, there were volumes said with no words. One interesting thing, this film, the original story, is from a Marathi film called Happy Journey. Atul Kulkarni played the original role that Prithviraj is playing. I think Anjali Menon added a lot of things to the script. I think, it was the original idea came from that Marathi film, and then she wrote the screenplay, and the dialogues are hers. But anyway, I thought it was a nice touch that they gave Atul a part as a coach from the flashback scenes of the childhood. Also, the child actors, especially the one playing Prithviraj as a child, I thought was very, very good. Just had this wide-eyed innocence. And it was interesting to see Prithviraj as an adult, a lot of melancholy, but there was a couple of scenes where Here's this guy who's obviously in his 30s, but he still had sort of an innocent look about him. And Prithviraj just pulled that off so well. I just think this is one of Prithviraj's, possibly one of his career best performances. It was so subtle. It was so awesome. I think, the heart and soul of the film is his. It's his story as Joshua or Yoshi. And he just did such a good job. And it's because of his eyes and the pain and the loneliness that I saw that I spent most of the film wiping the tears from my cheeks. Oh my gosh, this film. I'm not saying that in a negative, this was horrible way. Not in a negative way. I'm saying it moved me so much that I couldn't help but cry, realizing the pain that his life had been. And I just... Okay. So, bottom line, spoiler-free section is almost finished. Excellent film. Must see. You need to see it. Anjali Menon. Oh my God. I bow down to you. Like, you are just the master. Okay. Now, to really get into it, I want to discuss a few things. And so this is a spoiler section. I would really encourage you, if you've not seen the film, please stop here. Don't go forward. I just thought it was so interesting because I've seen this, like Mammootty had a film about this, but just how Prithviraj in some ways symbolizes so many of the breadwinners that go to the Gulf and live a lonely life there apart from their families. So in the film, he says he only came home every 4 or 5 years, and he basically sacrificed his life so that his family could continue, so that Jenny could have her medicines, so that Jenny could have that life in school. There was a moment in the flashbacks when we saw the young Joshua, and he failed at school, and I wasn't sure, and immediately preceding that, we saw his father pay for something, maybe school fees or pay for something. And it wasn't, what do you guys think? Do you think that he intentionally failed to save money on the school fees so that there would be money for his sister's medicine? I don't know. Or, obviously he was more of a mechanically bent kind of kid, not necessarily top of the school. They had just established his love for trains and all these other things. So, I don't know. I didn't realize, I thought we were going to get flashbacks about Jenny. I didn't know that we were going to start with a funeral. I didn't know that she was going to be a ghost. That really surprised me. I had heard there were magical elements, but I didn't know. I was trying to think if there's really been another Hollywood kind of film. Of course, there's the one called Ghost. There was one with Robert Downey Jr., I think, played a ghost in one film, and sort of there have been some Hollywood films where you've had someone been a ghost that only one person could see, that kind of guided them to a more balanced life or helped them through something. Didn't want to admit they were dead. This was a new thing, though, having a ghost that could eat and was hungry all the time. That was a little bit different. I don't know what the kind of folklore ghost kind of stories are in Kerala, and if that was really wild and different as it was to me, I don't know. But again, she was a little bit of a manic pixie dream girl, a little bit too animated. Oh, I'm young, I'm so crazy, kind of. So maybe if it had been toned down, and I do wish Parvathy had more lines in the script. I understand that she was sort of playing this reserved person, but I wish she and Prithviraj had more lines together, or that, they had some good establishing things, just hinting at how her home life had been. But I wish, instead of having so much with the Jenny character, that we'd had a little bit more with her. I did like that she had the insight to when Prithviraj broke down. She immediately connected. They show it in the film, the way they edit all those little glances to the van and whatever, that she realizes, oh my God, I just ran off with this guy who was having a psychological breakdown. And she stood with him, But wow, what a moment that must have been for her, realizing, I mean, obviously he was going through mourning and grief, but that was quite, I mean, what an wrenching moment that Prithviraj just, he'd finally made the connection with her. They showed that by them waking up on the blanket together. And it was kind of creepy towards the end. You were thinking, Jenny, it's time for you to move on, because, or his mind trick of saying, Jenny, that she was witnessing he was hesitating to kiss or whatever, Parvathy's character, because the sister was watching. I could see that was the psychological moment when it was time for her to go. There was that music video where they showed her running through the forest, and that's what I thought we were going to see in that, right before that moment. I thought that she was, he was going to say, it's time for you to move on, it's okay, and then she would be free to, you know what I mean? I thought it was going to have a more positive moment right there. I thought he was going to be like, I have Parvathy, it's okay, Jenny, you can go on, you can be free, you can fly, and that she would move on. And instead, she just vanishes because he finally just has that psychological break. I suppose that's more realistic in a magical film. I don't know, but anyway, I mean, it was quite a emotional breakdown scene there for Prithviraj. He did extremely, such great acting. Was I crying with that part. I was so wrapped up in that moment. I'm not sure it needed absolutely the coda of them having the wedding scene, but I did like the scene where they went to the college memorial, and that Jenny, the ghost, got to see that Krish, really was in love with her, that he was just a stupid college kid that didn't react to it in the best way. And so she got that closure, and then that he protected all of Jenny's friends, stood up for Prithviraj and Parvathy's character, and protected them from, her crazy relatives. So, did like that little bit of closure. I think this film was just such a lyrical, melancholy, but still, like, you feel good and uplifted at the end. I think it's a film that's really going to stay with me, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it in the comments. And I don't know if I'm going to get to see it again while it's in theater. It's a long drive for me to the one theater that plays it, but I just really admire Anjali Menon's work, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I really can't, because this is very different from Bangalore Days, very different from Ustad Hotel, and yet I think that common thread is how well she shows relationships, how well she shows family issues. She just has something special about the way that she makes films, and makes me so grateful that I started watching Malayalam films, because it's so enriching to my life to be able to watch such beautiful, emotional films like this, because we don't often get so raw of emotion in Hollywood type films. And while I did spend a few hours crying, it's the kind of thing where sometimes I like having that emotional release that an emotional touching film like this can give me. So, anxious to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Please press that like button, share this video, follow us on Twitter at PardesiYT. Please subscribe to the Pardesi channel, hit that bell, and then you get a notification whenever I have a new trailer reaction or film review.